Hi, I'm Kyle.
I'm Josh.
This is Two Guys, One Car.
Welcome to our car.
Dude, it starts with Two Guys, One Car. That's the name. It should start
It's
with
welcome
the
to our car.
name. No, but it has to start with Two Guys, One Car because that's the name of the thing.
Just get in the back seat.
Ride along with us.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. This week we have two very special guests on, filmmakers Guy Williment and Spencer Frost. Spencer and Guy have recently released a documentary, Kamchatka. Kamchatka sees Spencer Frost, Guy Williment, Letty and Fraser Dovell travel to Kamchatka in Russia in winter to find waves to surf. The guys break down the uncertainty of the trip as Russia initiated the war on Ukraine the day they were leaving. They discuss how trips can go from fun to life-threatening in an instant, and then the conversation takes a turn and deep dives into the toll that trips like these take on you mentally and the sacrifices that are required to achieve success in the field. I also want to note for anyone listening, these two guys created something of beauty, and as you will hear, they display a lot of imposter syndrome. They say, "We're just two mates from Avalon who grew up making little edits of each other surfing." Spencer and Guy had the courage and belief to give this project a go. In doing that, they traveled to the other side of the world, camped in minus 15 degrees Celsius temperatures, flew in helicopters over volcanoes, had an experience of a lifetime, and created one of the greatest films I have ever watched. There is no reason that you can't live out your dreams too. I hope you enjoy the episode. If you would like to support the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe. Reach out to us, sending us a DM with your thoughts on the episode, and we will catch you next week. I love each and every one of you.
I want to kick off by saying on Saturday, because we were at not the premiere, but like the second showcasing of the film, and I asked a question at the end. The mic was like so in and out.
Oh, yeah.
But the question I asked, Letty, is it? Yeah. Letty answered it, and I'm really keen to hear your boys' answer to this. And the question was something along the lines of, for you guys, it's been 2 years since the trip. You've both, I'm assuming, been involved in the post-production of it. So you've had that whole process, that headache, and I'm sure there's been many highs and lows with that. And now the actual showcasing, how is it for you guys being there watching the film yourself? Is it more from an analytical mindset of color grading this and wish we cut it here, or are you truly just reliving the stoke of the adventure it was?
Yeah, so we left for the trip a year ago, and then we had about a year of planning. So yeah, pretty much 2 years since we started dreaming about this project. And I don't know, I have personally watched the film easy 1,000 times. I've watched this project so much. I know every single word, I know every single clip, every moment. So just because I've lived and breathed it for the past 12 months of post-production. And yeah, I think the Friday night, the first screening was I know we're all a little bit nervous, and first time we'd shown anyone, and then yeah, come Saturday night we just sat back and just took it all in, and yeah, it was a pretty cool feeling. Both nights were amazing, good feeling, but yeah, to kind of watch it, and then every now and then you get these thoughts holy shit, we did that, that was us. These trips are we dream about them, and it's stuff that we think only our kind of idols can do, and then we're just so pumped to have pulled it off and to do it, and yeah, to now be sharing the adventure and hopefully inspiring a bunch of people. It's been such good feedback so far, and everyone just seems really pumped on it. So yeah, it's a cool feeling.
And where does that transition happen? Because a lot of people live in the, as you said, my idols do this. This isn't something I could do. But where does that transition happen for you guys where it's we can do this? We can put in the work and pull something off as amazing as this?
I think, I don't know if you guys saw it, but we did another project a few years ago. We went to Iceland and made a film and a book from that too. And I think that was kind of just off our own backs, no funding from anyone else, just ourselves. And that was a full passion project. And that did quite well, which was epic. And we were quite surprised by it, I think. There was no kind of end goal without of it going online or anything like that. So to see how well that was received and people really enjoyed it, we were fuck, let's just try and do it again. And I think this time we learned that we kind of can do it, and it was a bit of self-belief. And I think I rely on Spenny a lot for this to be because he dreams big. I dream big too, but I've kind of got a bit more fear and anxiety of failure, whereas I feel Spen just dives in, and that kind of allows me to dream too and be let's just do it. So with this one, we kind of just shot for the moon, and it ended up being awesome, and we had a bunch of sponsors jump on board and help fund it too. So it was from the start, it was like, what is our dream trip? And we kind of put it on paper and then talked about it, and we're like, how can we make this a reality? So it's kind of just like looking at it as a whole, and then like ticking off the steps to try and make it happen. And yeah, like it was overwhelming at times for sure, but like I think it's, at the end of the day, we're just like two mates from Avalon that kind of have dreamt really big, and it's kind of paid off somehow.
Yeah, that's so sick. And I was listening to Said to Spencer before your chat with what's the guy's name from Terrible Happy? Shan from Terrible Happy Talks, that podcast. And you mentioned the first trip in film, and I didn't know you guys had done one. So I'm really keen to actually go and watch that. But you were saying how you guys weren't really sure what it was going to be, and you just touched on that. Like, you guys thought maybe you chuck it up on YouTube, and then you entered it in all these film festivals, and it just started winning left, right, and center. Like, for you guys, was it the reason you didn't think it was going to go anywhere? Was it like a lack of self-belief of this product isn't that good, or like why did you guys not kind of think it was going to be as big as it ended up being?
Yeah, I think like for sure everyone's got, I don't know, it was a bit of, self-consciousness, and as you said, lack of self-belief. And I don't know, we just think like those bigger kind of global projects are just like kind of unattainable for us, and they're just like that next big step. But that trip was just like a full punt. It was me, Guy, and Fraser, who was actually in this second film, and we just like went to Iceland, and we rented this shitty rental car, and we were driving in like some of the wildest conditions ever, and like car slid off the road, lost camera gear, Guy got hypothermia, like so much went wrong, like so much went right. We had the craziest trip, like just three mates having a full punt, trying to make a surf film in like this crazy environment. And then got home, kind of started playing with the footage, and like realized like we've definitely got something, like it's pretty cool, like we got a bit of a story to tell. Fraser was kind of his coming of age, like transitioning from a professional surfer into like a real world job kind of thing. And that was like his last trip as like a full-time surfer basically. And I don't know, I don't know, you never think it's kind of going to go as good as it can, but same with this next project, like the Russia film, we're just going to go as like crazy as we can, try and get it all over the world. Like, why not? Like what Guy was saying, like we've already shot for the moon so far. We went to Russia and made a surf film. Like we might as well like push it as far as we can and try and get it as many eyes on it as we can.
What do you guys take from that first film that you now took into this next one?
A lot. I like had just started shooting then, like probably like a year before that. So that was like a new kind of world for me.
That's wild.
Yeah,
to
it
go
was like
from just shooting to a year later.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I guess that's like I was saying, like Spenny has been such a big inspiration for me and support, because it's just like, let's just do it. Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, okay, I want to do these projects. And it's like, let's just do it then. And we've been so lucky to, have the opportunity and support from people around us to kind of pursue our dreams. But yeah, I guess we learned from that I guess filming wise, like what people connect with is like a mix of like crazy cinematic porn and then like those real life raw footage, because that's what people loved in the last one. It's kind of a lot of those in between moments, like us struggling or like, getting the car stuck or running out of battery and stuff like that. So I think this one was like, let's just film everything, because a lot of those moments like in between that usually go like unnoticed are kind of like key moments in the film. And I think nowadays, like we've spoken about it so much, like that's what people connect with. It's like there's so much unbelievable like crazy cinematography out there, but now it's kind of like more like the storytelling, connecting with like 100%. The people.
So many surf films that I've seen, like, and I don't surf or anything, I've grown up on the beaches my whole life, but so many surf films just seem to be like the cinematic, like visual porn. Like it looks fantastic. But for like watching like your guys' project, it was such a story. Like to follow it through, like those little moments were the best parts, like by far.
'Cause it's the most relatable, right? Like the average guy can't relate to freaking surfing these like 8-foot waves on the east coast of Russia. Like, but they can relate to being in an airport, freaking out, like, oh, should we go? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I think it's just a lot more relatable, and that story was so prevalent throughout the entire film, which I really liked. And on the story, so like a huge part of that film really is like the Russia and Ukraine situation, and how you guys were literally like flying into Russia as that was kicking off. Like, did you guys kind of have a different idea of what you wanted the story to be? Because obviously you didn't foresee that coming. So yeah, what was kind of like the original plan, I guess? And
yeah, so it was just basically as simple as 4 mates, same as the last one, 3 mates going to Iceland. This was 4 mates going to Russia and trying to find waves that no one's ever surfed. obviously the whole situation with Russia and Ukraine added like such a kind of bigger story element to our project. And we have, obviously you've seen the film, we've touched on it and tried to be as like respectful, and because we have no business talking about it. It's not our country. We've got nothing to do with it basically. So, and what's happening is so sad and very upsetting for a lot of people. And we didn't want to just like kind of ignore it because it was such a big factor of the film. But we just tried to, touch on it and just show like a real life account of what happened on our trip. And I think we've done it pretty well. And
I feel like that would be tough to do based on, because it's such a big thing that everyone knows about, you know, like there is the temptation to actually go into that a little bit more. But I feel like the way you guys did it, at least from my perspective, is great. Like you didn't touch on it too much and it didn't seem political at all. It was just very much just like, this is the situation we're dealing with and the repercussions you guys had to deal with. Like that is some of the scenes where I can't remember who it was. I think it was you, Spencer, trying to pull the money out. Like there was no money. Like Instagram, just I think it was you guys, just like refreshing Instagram.
Yeah, a lot of the sanctions kind of started kicking in, like you know, a few days after we got there. So it was like, at the start, people were saying, you know, go get money out. Like Visa and Mastercard are pulling out, and we went to the ATMs, and it had got reduced to from $1,000 limit to $80. So we were like, okay, we can still get money out, but then a week later it like got completely cut out. So at one point we kind of didn't have access to any money. Like social media had gone down. Like we still have WhatsApp, but there was talk of like that getting taken off. So it was like every day there was these things that were just coming out, and it was like crazy story. I'll let Spenny tell this story about the money, but it's like pretty classic how we ended up getting money to Russia.
So credit cards, Mastercards, PayPal, Western Union, like any way, like Bitcoins, like any way you could ever think of getting money to another country was just basically like shut down. So we had like $300 cash between four of us, and we were meant to be there for another 6 weeks. So I came up with like this semi-genius idea where one of our mates who used to be an Aussie lives in Bali, and then one of Anton's mates, who was the surfer we were with, is Russian and now lives in Bali. So I transferred Dan, 10 grand or something like that, into his Australian account. He went and got it out in Indonesian rupiah in Bali. Went and met up with a random Russian dude that none of us had ever met in our life. And
Anton's like, you can trust him.
Said we can trust him, and
like, oh boy,
handed over like 7 grand of our money or 10 grand or something, and then he transferred him out of his Balian account into Russian account, and then Anton went to the ATM and got Russian dollars out, and then we had money for the whole trip.
Wow.
But there was things like that like didn't make the film just because, you know,
obviously you got to run time.
Yeah, but it was like there was just so many little things like that was happening like every day, and there was times where like our producer Luke would just be like, "Hey, situation's getting pretty bad. Like, we might have to get you out tomorrow," because it looked like kind of Abu Dhabi and Dubai airport were kind of questioning whether they want to pull out of Russia. So like we always had like, you know, plan A, B, C, D, E to get out of Russia in case that happened. So it was like, you know, along with trying to make a film, there was all these things in the background that were going on, and our family being like, hey guys, let's wrap this up. Like, this is a bit more important to get you home than a surf trip.
And that like the problem solving there to figure out how we get money, do you guys think that comes from you just being so set on making this film and bringing this dream to life, or would you just say like in general you're pretty good at solving problems? Because that's insane.
I think I'm pretty good at solving problems. I like to think I don't melt down too hard.
I reckon it's both. I think it's a mix of both. Like you and me were so like we were all invested, but Spenny and I particularly, because we'd spent like 8 months every day planning before we even went on the trip. So I was like, you saw in the film, like in the airport, we're like, let's go until we can't go anymore. But
yeah, pretty much. Like I think like it's kind of selfish to say, but like we were gonna try and go, and like I know Fraser, he had a lot of like external people in his ear, like his girlfriend and his parents were kind of just saying like, hey, like don't get on the flight, this is stupid. And then I don't know, I was speaking to my partner and my parents, and they were kind of like, oh, just do what you think. And same with you. And I don't know, after a year of looking at this area and planning this and dreaming, and got all the funding, and so much was on the line, and it's like it could have been the worst decision we ever made, but at the end of the day, like, I don't know, in hindsight we're safe, but we also didn't know how bad the situation was going to get. And we're still trying to navigate it and tread lightly through the whole situation, but I'm pretty happy we went.
It's
at the end of the
crazy.
day.
It's such a big element just out of surprise. Like so many things can happen out of surprise, but for that to be the thing that happens to you is just like, who would have guessed?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that was the case for you guys until like we saw it in the film. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I knew because I've heard some snippets.
Yeah,
and
because
stuff.
I was watching bits and pieces, but I must have just completely skimmed over it. Because when like I saw it in a thing, it was like completely like, what? You guys were there? Like it happened as you were on the first flight. Not even like the second flight in. It was like the first flight. So you just had the decisions to make.
Yeah, it was literally like got off the plane from Sydney to Abu Dhabi, sat down at a cafe, and within half an hour, like every TV in the airport was just reporting that, you know, there was bombings going off, and it was just like, we were just looking at each other just going like,
And that just
what the fuck is going on?
adds so much because that like every TV is sort of the like zombie apocalypse type thing that you have in your head when it's like you're watching Channel 9 or Channel 10 and then like it flips to like the instant news channel and you're like, oh my goodness, this is real. Like this is serious.
Yeah.
I really liked how you guys kind of showed the group dynamic and how everyone was sort of dealing with it in their own way. And I like based off through the film, you guys seem to really be like, we're either like all in on this or like we're not doing it kind of thing. And I found it really cool how you were saying on the pod how Letty's like a bit more of the cautious one, and I think that definitely showed where in the airport you could like genuinely see the fear, and I think whoever captured that, like, well done, because I can imagine, like, is it hard to film in those situations? Is it hard to want to document that stuff when it's like, guys, it's pretty gnarly?
I think we learnt from the last one, like, they're the moments. Like, as bad as it is, like, as hectic as that situation was, it's like, we're here to make a doco, and that was like, yeah, like Benny was saying, we're still trying to navigate how to deal with this like sensitive situation. But like for us at the time, it's like, this is part of our story now. So yeah, we just filmed pretty much everything that day, and like a lot of the time you saw we just put the camera on the table because, you know, we'd be chatting for half an hour and it's like one of us got the camera and it's just like, okay, let's just stop filming and put it down. That's why in the film you just see it's like on a water bottle or on a phone or something, because it's like we were trying to deal with it real life, like, and we're just four mates, like we're not like, we've never dealt with anything like that before. So I was like, just roll when we can, or put the camera down and roll some audio or something, because it was like, it was just dealing with it in the moment. It was such a serious situation, like, so it was. But yeah, we're stoked we filmed that because it's just raw and real, and I think a lot of people kind of put themselves in our shoes watching that and go like, what would I do in that situation? And like, yeah, I think a lot of people, I don't know.
I almost think the way it's shot as well helps the audience get into that realness of it, 100%. Because it's not this like crazy cinematic shot. It's like literally a camera looking at a water bottle and you're hearing the dialogue. And I think that's where it's like, as the audience personally, I was like, oh shit, this is real. Like they can't put effort into making it look all beautiful and pretty. Like it's just the conversation that's going on.
It juxtaposed all the stunning shots as well. That's what I was like post doco was thinking about, is those shots where it was the raw moments, you could really distinguish between the two, and it actually really felt like it was, you know, like it was really raw. Yeah, for sure.
What story did you want, like now that the film's done, what is the story you want to tell through it? Because obviously there's, you know, you want to tell something, but I interpret it as something else. But like, what do you guys really want to put out through that film?
Yeah, I think everyone will kind of take what they want from it. And a lot of people, I've already had a lot of responses, and a lot of them are like pretty different. Like some people are super inspired. Some people are like, yeah, holy shit, that was crazy. And like, I don't know, there's so much, it's all just kind of, I don't know how you take it. And yeah, I don't know, just want to inspire people. And it was, at the end of the day, it was, four mates going to Russia to find a wave that no one surfed, and we did that, and then we got caught in the middle of all this other shit. But we also, the people we met and how nice and friendly they were to us, and they just like took us in, and they're friends for life, all those people we met over there now. And they were so lovely, and they really made it a really special trip.
Yeah, I think it was like, we kind of like had an idea before we went, and obviously it got flipped on its head. And then I think Anton's character's been so loved because, like, in a way, that's what we said is like surfing kind of broke down everything that was going on at the time, and then we were able to make all these special friendships and connections to the people there. Like, and when you look at the situation from the outside, it's kind of like at a time where the whole world turned against Russia, we were getting looked after and loved by like Anton, and we just, I don't know, it was a weird being there at that time. But again, it's like what Svenny was saying, it was like the people we kind of met on the way, like along with the adventure. And I think that's what traveling's all about. Like you kind of go for one reason, but then you end up with like lifetime friends and just like the craziest memories between the 3 and 4 of us. So
man, when is Anton coming to Australia? That guy,
He's coming.
Yeah, we were trying to get him here for the premieres, but yeah, I think he's just, as you saw, he's pretty hopeless, and there was no way he was going into a visa center and doing all the paperwork, and yeah, he's happy just hanging in Kamchatka, and he's got his good thing going there. It's, teaching kids to surf, and it's coming into winter there again. It's pretty much almost been a year since we were there, and it's snowing and minus 15, and he's just loving it. He sends us all these updates, covered in snow, frozen beard, like. Yeah, he lives it.
What a find that was, hey? Like, how'd you guys land on him? Was it just like, because I guess he's like you guys mentioned in the film, it's like he's sort of the pioneer of like surfing in Russia, realistically.
Yeah. So he, I basically, once we knew Kamchatka was where we wanted to go, I had a little introduction message. Hi, my name's Spencer Frost, filmmaker from Australia. We want to come to Kamchatka and make a surf film. Is there waves, and is anyone able to help us? Simple as that. Translated it into Russian and just Instagram DM'd like 20 people, whoever I could find, basically, that lived up there, was up there. And one of the people that got back to me was Anton. And I just saw that you could just tell he's just like, straight away. As soon as I started talking to him as well, he was just like, he was so funny. Like the first few Zoom calls we had, we were like best mates already, and like laughing and joking, and he's just like, he's such a funny guy, and just like a kid, just so cool. And then the other guy that we got onto was Max, who basically ran all the helicopters, logistics, had the guides, had the lodge, and between the two of them, it was like just really like set up for success.
Yeah, he just got gold from the get-go, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, it was psycho how it all came together.
Yeah, I like one of the first few opening shots was like the boys getting into the helicopter, like in the initial couple of shots, getting into the helicopter, there's just like snow, surfboards in hand, and instantly I was just like how cool is this? Like the relationship between like the modern day man and nature and like human potential. Like what's this film gonna be? And I was so excited, and throughout the film it's such a constant theme of like the relationship with man and nature, and how like we can't win, and all we can do is just try to find a playground within it. And like there was a moment for you, Guy, where like you got pretty emotional, and like talk us through that. Like were you genuinely fearing your life?
Yeah, pretty much. As you saw in the film, we found this left slab that kind of we had. I mean, going into the trip, the expectation to find waves was like pretty minimal. Like we thought it'd maybe get like 2 to 3 foot, like kind of that first surf we had, like sunshine, snowy mountains in the background, and that was kind of what we were there for. And then a swell popped up on the radar, and we got in the chopper and searched the coast and found that left slab out the helicopter window, which was just insane. And we landed the helicopter on the beach, and the wave was about 1 kilometer out to sea, and it was minus 15 and 1 degree water. So that's like you're already kind of battling the elements before you even get in the water. I decided to shoot off a longboard. I thought there was a bit of a channel in the water, so it's about a 20-25 minute paddle out there, and you're already kind of freezing by that
what's
point.
that like? Like break down that paddle for us.
So the shorey itself was like an 8-foot shorey on one like a pebbly beach. So the boys kind of headed out before me, and then Anton and I, because he wasn't really going to surf. He'd never seen a wave like that in his life. Like he was just losing it. He was like, I can't believe this is real, because he's more of a longboarder on a fish. So he helped me get through the shorey with a longboard, and had like a long lens in the camera, so I had quite a bit of gear. It was quite heavy. So we waited for probably like 15 minutes between a gap in the shore break. So even that was like hectic, and then getting out and just that paddle, like the current was super strong, but it was pulling us out, so that was okay. And then we got out there, and Fraser got one straight away, which is like insane, because it's a wave that had never been surfed before in the far east of Russia, like surrounded by volcanoes and mountains. It was super surreal, and I think I shot for maybe like half an hour or so, and the current was just kind of sucking me into the reef, like where the wave was breaking. So I was kind of trying to manage where I was sitting the whole time and manage not being too cold. And then, as you saw, there was some freaking like giant waves and sets rolling through, and unfortunately I got caught on the inside of one. It kind of broke in front of me, and I just got smoked. Like when you do go under the water when it's that cold, like it literally takes your breath away. So for that to happen, that went on for maybe like 20 minutes or so. And I was getting dragged along this kind of rocky outcrop, probably 500 meters from where the wave broke, with a 10-foot log attached to me and like a 5-kilo housing in my hand. So I was pretty like distraught, and then I kind of got swept to the inside, and my leggy got caught on a rock, and I couldn't get out of the spot where I was. So yeah, I was like panicking. And because, we've got like 7mm mitts on, so I couldn't get the leg rope off my leash. So it was just like a lot going on at the time. And then eventually I got pushed to the other side of the bay. So yeah, I'm probably 1.5 kilometers or 2 k's away from the helicopter at this point, from like safety. And I'm just by myself and full of 1 degree water and cramping up. And I was like pretty distraught. And then made my way out to the back to where the boys were. And they were like, "Are you okay? Where have you been?" And I was like, "I'm all right." Like, internally I was fucked, but I didn't want to be like, cry. I didn't want to cry, but yeah, eventually I saw the flares going off from the pilots on the beach, and that was like, it was time to go because there was a storm coming in. So there's, like you're saying, it's just you against the elements.
Dude, and even once you'd gotten to the buoys, I feel like you're still like, I'm still out here. It's like something could happen. So you kind of stay composed. It's almost like, and then you hit the shore and you were just like...
I was distraught. And even the paddling, like the boys, I don't think they realised how like rattled I was at this point.
Yeah. Why didn't you want to show it? Why didn't you want to cry?
I don't know. I think I was just like trying to like get to the beach. I was like, I'm fine. I'll get through it. Because I guess that's always my mentality. I've never had a moment like that ever in the ocean.
Wow.
Like I always try and stay calm because I know that's what you got to do. But I think like just exhaustion. I think part of me really wanted to get shots that I didn't get that surf because I was like, you put your body on the line to get these shots, and I got smoked. And then from the inside, I'm seeing these guys catch waves. So part of me is like, fuck, I've blown this so hard. So there's that part of it, and then like exhausted, cold,
freezing cold. Like not to mention the freezing cold.
Yeah, I know. It's like so cold. Like it's hard to describe. Like you guys, we were all just in the ice bath together, but it's like that getting like swept under waves, and like you can't just get out and be like, okay, back to safety.
And
it's
not only like the air temps, what, -15, -20 or something.
Like, dude, when you're up and like some in the shots as well, you can see some of the wind was just gnarly.
Oh yeah, like you add wind to that, and it's just like.
And then it's like you're not even there. Like you need how long's the helicopter ride back to?
Half an hour heli ride. So
Yeah, an hour maybe.
Yeah, like in your mind, it would be so easy to just fall and spiral. So I think it's amazing that you held yourself together to get back to shore.
And it melted as we got to shore. Right on cue. Yeah, I think we were talking before about like getting those real moments, and that was like, that was probably the other real moment of that whole film where like, it was pretty hard for me to just like film it, but like I had to film it. It was like, it was such a raw, real moment and like serious, like, and I think it brought, like after the success of finding the wave and surfing, and it was like, I don't know, as a surfer watching that, I think a lot of people were like, holy shit, they've done it, they did it. And then it like snapped back to reality. It's been like the severity of like how quickly it can go wrong and how gnarly it is. Like, I think it's a pretty cool moment. Just, it's like, 2 minutes of the film, and it's basically just one clip, and we just let it roll out and just kept it raw and real. And
yeah. And was that sort of like one of the first moments, obviously the initial getting to Russia, but was that one of the first moments on trips you guys have done where it's like, okay, like we can die quite easily, and it's not all like laughs and cheers and getting the shot. It's like this stuff's pretty wild, especially considering like being pioneers. Like the fact that you can do anything for the first time in the 21st century is just, it blows my mind. It truly blows my mind.
Yeah, I think like, and even to that point, like no one had surfed that wave before, like you guys said, to your knowledge. So even just knowing the area, you're like, fuck, no one's been in this position before.
Yeah, it's like, even like us, I guess we're more shooting or capturing the moment. I guess I've never shot at a wave that's no one ever like surfed before. So I think you're like, another thing is like, where do I sit in this lineup? Where's safe? And I got caught up. So it's like, there's those things. And then, it is freaky. Like after that, it's like, I think in Iceland, there's a fine line between like a good story and like having a funny kind of bad experience, but then also like on the other side of that, like shit can go wrong, especially in those climates. And
I think it's like, I always say to myself, there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity.
Yeah, totally.
Very fine line.
And I think that whole trip, we were like on the edge of that the whole time.
Yeah, and definitely Iceland was like more stupidity. The first trip was like, everything that went wrong, it was because we were stupid, pretty much. Or we didn't have good equipment, we had a shit rental car. Like this next one, we were like, pretty much as prepared as you could possibly ever be in terms of like world-class guides, good gear, good wetsuits, helicopters, snowmobiles, and we still like almost got into like serious trouble. So yeah, I would have hated to see that trip if we weren't well prepared.
I think it's like, I think we went into that knowing like, like Spenny was said, in Iceland there was times, like our car battery died one night when we were shooting the Northern Lights, and we were like, how are we getting home? Like, how do we get back? It's like, it gets minus 20 there in the mountains, or like even minus 30. And luckily we jump started the car again, but it was like, that was a bit of a wake up call. Like, we need like sleeping bags and food and like actual emergency gear in the car. So this trip was like,
even the tent, like that scene with you guys, like snow camping, that was nuts. Like, I think about times where I've camped, like on times where I've been in the snow, and like one time in particular, and then just thinking about like, I could not have camped in that. Like, it's just like, if I was not prepared. So if you guys didn't have all the gear, it's like...
And that was like back to just man versus nature. Like, we had all the gear. Those tents are like world-class tents, and they still got flattened by this wind. So it's like, what else can you do? Like, we were as prepared as you could possibly be. Like, we were with like world-class guides then. Like, everything was good, and then we still got smoked. Like, nature's the boss over there, and like we just thought we had a bit of control over it, and we just got smacked back to reality every now and then.
Was there like a bit of an expectation placed on, because we're with world-class guides, we're going to be okay, it's all going to be fine? Did you guys sort of fall into that?
I think you do feel a lot safe. Like, we wouldn't have done that trip if we didn't have guides. Like, we'd be dead for sure. And I don't think we want to come across as heroes. Like, we did this and we're all marching. It's like, no, like, we put our faith in people that knew what they were doing a lot of the time. But yeah, it is scary. Like, even that day when we were trying to head to the beach after the volcano trip, and we got caught in a blizzard in the mountains, and our two guides are kind of speaking in Russian together, and you're kind of looking at them going, are they worried? Like,
you're just trying to read the body language.
Yeah, and you're like, fuck, I think we're lost.
Yeah,
like,
and then we asked, we're like, are we lost? And they're like, yep.
And you're like,
we're like, a little bit.
And we look at each other and we're like, we're stuffed out here if something goes wrong. But you do, like, they're amazing. Like, they've done years and years of training and their experience. But it's like, yeah, I think a big thing for us, this whole project has been like collaboration, like working with people that are like professionals in whatever they do. And I think that's what's made it a success, or kept us alive and kind of got us this far.
Yeah, you gotta almost like let go of the reins, and I can imagine that can be hard from like being producers and in that sort of like powerful position where you can call the shots and you do make the decisions, to actually like relieve that, to put that duty onto other people. Like, do you guys struggle with that at all?
Oh, I think I've just learned, especially with this trip, you need to get all the help you can get, all the favors. Like, everyone, like, doesn't have to take away from like your credit on it or your like ownership of it. You just need people to help, and like, everyone is so happy to help when they see like you chasing a dream or chasing like one of these bigger projects. Like, everyone sees that and they're just like so excited and so amped to be involved. And like, even if it's like the smallest little part or like a massive part, like, everyone just gets like so into it, and then they see get the ball rolling and stuff's happening, and like, we're finding waves, and like, even when we're over there, like, so many new people were jumping on, and they're just frothing to hang out with us because they just see like how motivated we are. And yeah, it's pretty awesome to see.
I think too, like, when we were there, like, before we went, we had like, you know, slideshows of shots we were trying to get and like what the storyline's going to be, and then once you get there, it kind of just all falls out the window, and it's like, we're not in control here. Like, Spenny and I had dream shots of getting like, you know, eventually you saw it like the boys running into the chopper, but there was so many times on the trip where like we'd be like, oh, we need to shoot the chopper coming in, and Max would be like, we don't have time, like, we've got a 5-minute weather window, like, put your cameras down and get in the chopper. And you're just like, fuck, we're paying like a stupid amount of money to do this trip, and we want to shoot, and it's just like bad luck. Like, this is like,
damn. And then that forces you to then pick new shots. Like, it's not like the shots you can't take, it's now the shots that you find. It's like, oh, I've got a 10-minute window to find something. What am I going to make with it?
And a lot of it was like on the fly. It was like, we just got to like not freak out, not melt. This like, all right, that didn't work. What else can we do? And shoot something, because that was what this whole trip, you just have the camera and point it and click record because you might get a moment, you might not. Like, we shot so much stuff that'll never see the light of day, but like, what we did get, there was a lot of those moments that was literally just like, you have to just be on and filming and getting all this coverage, because you get one shot at it and then that's it.
Yeah, it wasn't like maybe once or twice we actually got to set up a shot. Otherwise, it was always just on the go, just because it's so extreme there. Like, nature's in control and you're kind of working around it.
Yeah, nature isn't on your time schedule.
Yeah. Like, Spenny and I would look at each other some days and just be like you're trying to explain to like the helicopter pilot or like the driver of the snowmobile or the car, like, that we're trying to get this shot. And it's like, we don't care, like, bad luck, we got to go. Yeah. And we just look at each other and be like,
and it wasn't even them being rude. They're literally just like, we have to go. Like, this is dangerous. Like, if we don't do it now, like.
So how do you guys manage your emotions in that? Because you said you went into it with all these dream shots, like everything's in your head, and when the reality is you can't get it, like what do you guys do? Do you have any practices to manage your emotions so that doesn't consume you in the moment and you can quickly adapt and find another shot?
I think we're both pretty good. I think we both definitely had like a meltdown or two on the trip because we had the perfect shot and it just disappeared and we missed it, and it was just like, fuck, like what are we doing? We've spent all this money, we're all here, we're in Russia, and we're just like missing the coolest shit because someone's rushing or something's happening or but yeah, I think we both like handled ourselves pretty well, and like a lot of the time you just got to cop it on the chin and just be like, oh well, like next time. But definitely, like, in saying that, we learnt that if you didn't get it, you're probably not going to get it. You're probably not going to get another chance again. So like that also motivated us to be like, if you ever have an opportunity to get something cool, never pass it up, because you need to like get the shot. Like if you've ever got like a spare 10 minutes to get, I don't know, some crazy shot of a volcano and someone riding a snowmobile or something, you like take those opportunities, because we had times where we'd shoot something at the start of the trip and we're like, oh, we'll redo it again at the end. It's like, never got a chance again. So
yeah, like I had a shot that, because it felt like the boys wanted to surf. Like Letty and Fraser's goal was to like surf, and I think we had more of like the let's shoot the behind the scenes, and like they didn't care about that. They weren't seeing us from like a filmmaker's perspective. They're like, we're here to surf. We just want to go surfing.
If there's a film called, couldn't care less.
Like seriously,
If you lost all your footage, don't care, as long as I get to surf these waves.
Surf stuff. But it was there was one day in particular we went. Did I just cook that?
no, you're good.
We went. Took the heli, got dropped off on the coast. We were meant to be there like 1 or I think 2 nights maybe. And we woke up one morning and we needed to get shots for the sponsors that helped fund the trip. And we were explaining to the boys that we needed to shoot sunrise. We needed to get them walking on the beach in their wetties and with the waves in the background and stuff. And they were kind of like, the waves looked quite fun. And they were like pretty off it that we were having to do this behind the scenes stuff. And it was like, for us, we needed to tick off boxes for the sponsors. Like we've got to give them content.
Of course.
And then we shot for maybe an hour and a half. And then we got a call from the heli pilots to Max, one of the guys, was saying, hey, there's a storm coming in. We're coming to get you now. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to come get you for a few days. So that was like a very expensive trip.
Spent like 10 grand to get to the beach, and then we landed there and filmed the boys sitting in a wetsuit at a campfire, and then they pretty much came and picked us up. We didn't get to surf. Well, they paddled out for 10 minutes, and it was...
Yeah.
Come in, boys.
And it was just like... That was the most off it the boys were on the trip, I reckon, because like they were just, yeah.
Do you feel that, like when you're there, like do you feel like it's like they're offered at you, or you just feel like they're offered at the situation?
That day they were offered at us.
They were offered at us.
Yeah.
I kind of find that quite cool though, because like for me, I feel like I totally like get you guys. You obviously need to shoot that, but for them, they're so dedicated to just surfing. They just love surfing. They're like, I don't give a shit.
It is equally like we do need to get. It's a surf film. I think it is bigger than a surf film, but it's about surfing. And it's equally, if not more important, to film running to the water or like talking to Letty when he's coming out of the water and his reactions. And so there was a lot of that stuff, and it was a constant battle of just like, all right, quick little 5-minute interview. Just we need this coverage, like, yeah.
Like that's what makes it, in my mind, like a story in a documentary. Otherwise, it is just like a collage or a montage of just surf clips.
Yeah.
It's like you guys were there to make a documentary, like to document an experience, and for that, like monologue is one of the best ways to show that and you know, get the reaction. And for Letty, like he was just such a core character. Like the way I saw Letty portrayed was just that fun kid that is like, dude, this is your playground, just go wild. And he's just seeing everything for the first time. I loved it so much.
Yeah, he was really raw. Like I feel like his ability to be honest to the camera, like you could definitely tell he was actually quite good at it.
Yeah, I think too, like from the start, you see it in the film, he's like painted as this fun, kiddie, playful character, kind of a bit like aloof, like just go with the flow, whatever's happening. And then I think why people connected with him so much, because he had that like vulnerable side too. Like when he cried in the chopper that day, that was really special for all of us, because he is like the cool kid on the block, gets the girls, he's the cool surfer from the Gold Coast, like, and then you see this other side that's like, oh, like he has feelings and he cares, and it's like overwhelmed with how beautiful the landscape is there. And like I think that's why people connect with it, because it's like you see that two sides of someone.
100%. Going back to when you were talking about like how you guys learned to manage with your emotions and handle that, and sort of just adapting, do you guys feel like that translates to your everyday life and like your ability to just sort of like, all right, cool, we can't do that, where are we going next?
Yeah, sometimes. Some good days. Yeah, sometimes you have bad days and kind of, I don't know. I think this whole project, we just like bounced off each other. Same with like managing stress and everything else. Like if someone was kind of melting down, like we all know each other so well. We all grew up together. Like you know everyone's limits and you know like kind of don't poke the bear. And if someone's having a shit day, just like, I don't know, help them out. And yeah, I think we were all pretty good. Like we didn't really have many blow ups at all on the trip. Like we were there for 2 months in like one of the wildest places on earth. You can imagine it can get pretty hostile pretty quickly, and we just kind of just made it happen. And yeah, everyone had bad days, everyone had good days. We all just like helped each other out, and yeah, just back to like collaboration. It's not possible without everyone kind of being all in. So what do we need to do to make everyone kind of frothing and happy to be there?
I think like we're all like all best mates. We're also like quite individual, and like we're also all very different, I think.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I think, you know, we all do ices every day. Like that's something we do to kind of help handle stress and like meditate. And I was doing a bunch of journaling over there just to like help in those days, because like a lot of the time you don't feel like you're in flow with it all, and you're like come for this goal to create this epic project, and then like, you know, you're stuck in the cabin for a week because it's dumping with snow and you can't do anything, and you're just like, you know, what are we doing here? Or like, are we even going to be able to achieve what like the purpose of this trip? And so you definitely have days where you're like feeling the stress, but like Spenny was saying, we know each other's limits, and as much banter as we have together, there's also like guys struggling today, like let's just like either give him some space or look after him, or let's all go to the gym and have a stretch, or like, because there was like a gym there was like saunas and hot tubs, so it's like we also had moments where we could have that downtime, because I think for us we were constantly chasing shots. Like the boys are obviously there to surf and get when we can get the behind the scenes stuff, but Spenny and I were always kind of looking at like, what do we need to shoot, where does this fit into the story, what haven't we got? So it was like I felt like we were doing a lot more like behind the scenes work.
Yeah.
But it was, I guess we definitely took time to kind of manage
Which
our
means
stress.
you're always on. Like if you're doing behind the scenes work all the time, like you guys are on all the time.
Yeah,
Because
we didn't have many off days, and our off days were like, so like, as Guy was saying, like the trip was split up between like we Max put us up in one of his cabins at his lodge, and it was like pretty luxury. It was like a hot tub, like gym, sauna, like helicopter. That's where the helicopters came to land. Like we were living it up. Like it was amazing. And then like on the flip side of that, we'd be like camping on a beach in a tent and like just on our own for like days on end. No power, no electricity, no water, just like fending for ourselves basically, out in the elements. So to go through that for a few days, it's stressful, it's gnarly, it's cold, it's miserable, and then we'd like come back to the lodge. It was so good to have like base camp to like reset, refresh. Like we'd just always be making a plan. Like we obviously had to like charge all our batteries again because there was nowhere to charge them when we're out. Like do all the data, like put all the footage we'd filmed onto computers, hard drives. So there was always stuff to do. Like we didn't have like too many down days. Even if we were stuck in the cabin for like a week, we'd still have like shitloads to do. Like
100%.
Yeah.
Is there ever a point where it's like hard to leave that base camp, the hot tub, the comfort, the luxury, to go out in the freezing cold? Because like for me personally, when I do a bit of hiking, and there's some days where I'm walking the most beautiful part of the world. Like I was hiking the Larapinta Trail in the middle of Australia. There were literally moments where I'm like, I'd rather be at home. Like I don't want to be here right now. This sucks. I hate this. I want to be home. But any single time I'm at home, I would kill to be out there. And it's crazy how no matter where you are, it's like the grass is always greener, and like it's so hard to fully appreciate where you are. So yeah, how was that for you guys?
Yeah, you definitely have days. Like it definitely wasn't a holiday trip. Like it was like it was full on, and once we came home, we crashed because it was like we were running on such high adrenaline the whole time. But I think this was like a dream trip for us. So there was more moments of like, yeah, this is really hard, and like I'm having a shit day, or I didn't get the shot we wanted, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you also have those moments where you're in a giant helicopter flying to the coast, and you're surrounded by like mountains with smoke coming out of them, and you're looking at each other just going, hey, like we made this happen. Like it's pretty crazy. So I think there's like a flip side to it. Like, yeah, there's stressful moments, and there was times where we wanted to go home, we missed our partners, and like, you know, you got your family saying, let's wrap it up. Like this situation is so bad. But then you also have these moments with your best mates, like seeing Letty cry. Like that was like a pure moment of like, I can't believe we're here. Like it was really like you'd pinch yourself at some of the stuff we were seeing, hey?
Lots of things that I never thought I'd ever experience, and I probably will never will again in my life. So to experience that with like 4 of your best mates that we grew up with, like, and we just like made this trip happen. We manifested it. We just like worked. We pitched like the shit out of it for funding, and we just promised the world on a total whim that we thought we were maybe gonna do something cool, but we actually didn't know if we were ever gonna find waves. We'd never seen world-class waves on that coast. We just like more or less like lied and just said we're gonna pull it off, and just like thank God we did, because everyone's so happy with what we done. But we just made it happen, and can't wait.
I think there's a shot in the film where I think it's you guys both have a camera in hand, and it's like the helicopter. It is like that was just like to like, and I feel like so many guys can relate to that. It's like when you do something fun with a brother, just like, and when you do it or something pans off, you're just like, yes, like just to see you guys be like, for that to be in it, I thought was beautiful too, because it's sort of fourth walled, because it was just like you guys with the camera, like, we're doing this, you know what I mean? And a lot of it was just the other guys surfing. So to see you guys behind it was like,
that was I didn't know that shot existed, because there was one of the guides who's also a cinematographer over there, Misha. He was always kind of like with us. Well, not always, but a lot of the time when we could get him on board to shoot, he was. But cool. I didn't know that clip existed until like Spenny was going through the rushes, and I was like, wow. And we just had a hug watching that. And I was like, because we have put, I even get goosebumps talking about it, but like we have put like our heart and soul into this project for like 2 years. And I feel like it's broken me, to be honest. Like I just went away for 2 weeks because I pretty much had a mental breakdown a few weeks ago, just because it's all been like so overwhelming, and like, you know, so much time, energy, money we put into this. And then even on the weekend, seeing how it's been received, like it almost makes me want to tear up, just like getting to that point and be like, I can't believe we finished it in a way. And now we kind of get to enjoy it and see the reactions from people watching it, like really like touches the soul in a way.
Your guys' ability to process that now, and I guess you've just come off the back of the last few days being like the premiere. How are you feeling right now? Like, well, if you can put it into words, like.
Oh, we had 2 pretty big party nights, so could be feeling better. But no, I'm so pumped with it. Like, I 1,400 people came and watched it on the weekend, which is crazy. And then we've got like a pretty much sold out tour for the next few weeks. So we're just going to show it to like thousands of people all over Australia. And as far as the response so far, everyone's just so pumped on it. Like surfers, non-surfers, like, I don't know, old ladies that came out, like all walks of life. Everyone took something different away from it. And like to see just everyone appreciate it. And like, I don't know, we had like all those little kids in the front row just like so pumped on it, like on the first night. And hopefully we're just inspiring people. And it's pretty cool to sit back now and just like take it in. And
I was actually sitting next to like an older lady, and she was from England, and she just walked into the cinema and just like saw whatever the first movie that she saw was there, and she thought it was, I can't remember what she said. She thought it was about like animals or something in the snow, like some nature film.
that is so good.
But she was like, she's like, she was like, I thought it was about nature, and then it's like a surfing film, and she's like, and she's like saying all this stuff about, wow, like it's amazing you can go surf there, and I was like, you had no idea it was going to be this.
She walked into the wrong film.
Just going to see Avatar and just sees us. So. But it's stuff like that's cool. Like to hear that, like I get way more pumped on like a 7-year-old lady frothing on it than like a 20-year-old surfer, because I think like I'd like to think, without talking it up, like I'd expect most surfers are gonna like enjoy it, but I love to hear like people that don't give a shit about surfing and like don't know us, don't know anything about it, literally walk into the wrong cinema and can still sit down and enjoy it. That like gets me so pumped up. And
how good's that, walking in the wrong cinema?
By herself, handbags, like little walking stick. It was so funny. It was so funny.
So good.
What for like on the horizon for you guys? I mean, you probably don't have an answer for this, and like don't answer it if you don't have anything. But like, is there like a little dream? Like, what's the next thing?
They're psychos. They have to. Like anyone that does stuff like that.
It's more like after you've done something so big, and to what you're speaking about, Guy, you're so burnt out that you're probably just like, fuck, I don't want to even like feed the creative side, but I feel like in your eyes, both of you still have something.
We've actually got a few ideas kind of just burning up here, kind of, and every now and then we're like, hey, you want to start chatting? And like this, like to be honest, like I don't know how much we can say, but we have already had like meetings with people who like they're experts of this location, and it's pretty wild. There's a few locations we're looking at, but there's one in particular that's like absolutely psycho. Even more psycho than the one we've just done.
What's the level up like? Because you go from Iceland, like self-funded, self-supported. Now, how do you say Kamchatka? Kamchatka.
Yeah.
Like sponsored, like a level up from Iceland, crazy. And it's like, obviously there's just going to be this continuous leveling up, more crazy, like crazier surf, crazier waves, crazier sponsors, more budget. Like, does that excite you? Just like, where can we take this thing?
Yeah, it's super exciting. Like to think like, I don't know, if we don't have to put our own money into the next one, like, it's like pretty financially hectic doing these projects for us. Like you put a lot of your own money into it and then you don't make money for a year during post-production. So it's hard. So to think like, we've already had some of the sponsors that supported this one, like we want to be supporting the next one.
Wow.
Which is super
like
exciting.
pretty much like all of them have said like, we're in, like let us know what you want to do kind of thing, which is pretty crazy to have that kind of support. Like it's like our dream to just like dream something up, to just like dream up a project, and like me and Guy can just brainstorm and just be like, what's like the craziest shit we can come up with, and then get a quote from whoever that's gonna like facilitate it, like Max who did ours, and his quote was like $100,000 for his services, and we got that, and me and Guy were like, fuck, like how are we gonna do that? And we just like, we're like, all right, let's just make it happen. And we just like put together a pitch, and we just went to all these meetings and all these funding things, and we just ended up just like raising all this budget to like fund this dream that we had. So yeah, to be able to do that with like my best mate, just be like, where else do we want to go? Because we can pretty much go to the moon and just like get a quote and just like say how much do we need, and just like try get the money for it, which is pretty crazy feeling. It's like,
what does that mean for you guys? Like to get to a point where you can approach people, companies, hey, we want to do this crazy thing, and they can look at your credentials and look at like the people you are and obviously meet you and entrust you with that. Like that must just feel so special to know you guys have built, because like you built yourselves there. Like you don't just con man that and fake that. Like you've earned that. So how does that feel?
It's pretty special. Like even hearing you guys say it, it still doesn't feel real, to be honest. Like I feel like we're just still like young kids from Avalon that are like, we used to just film each other like bodyboarding out LA and then make little clips from that. So to like look back on the last 10 years and kind of see, I mean, I didn't start taking photos till 5 years ago, and like that was because I was inspired by seeing Spenny start filmmaking. Like, so it's like, I guess it's this domino effect of like pursuing your dreams. And I think like for me, like I kind of touched on before, it was like I was so scared of telling myself I want to be a photographer or I want to be an adventure filmmaker and failing at that. So to kind of look back now and just see like, yeah, we started at grassroots level pretty much, and it was like writing down what we wanted to do. And then I think for me, having Spenny and like vice versa, I think working as a team is so sick, because it's like you can dream up these projects together and you kind of feel like supported through it. But it's still super surreal to look back, and you know, Iceland was something, this one's gone to a whole nother level, and to think where we're going to go is so exciting. And like, yeah, like Spenny touched on before, like we were going to meetings to like the CEOs of these businesses and pitching like this slideshow that we'd put together, and to see that like we've pulled that off now, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, is the key confidence in there? Because like there has to be a level of you like, who the hell are we? Like what are we doing?
And we're still like that. Like we look at all these people that we look up to so much, and they're making these big projects, and then like when you kind of take a step back, we're like, holy shit, we're making these big projects now. Like, and I still feel like they're on like such like a higher level than us, and like I don't know, you've always got self-doubt, and I don't know, maybe it's insecurities and everything else, but definitely with this one it was just like, just go for it. And like, yeah, we promised so much with like so little like a surety, basically. Like we just hoped that we'd find waves to surf, we hoped that the weather wouldn't be shit the whole time. Like we just didn't even, between just having Max and Anton on board, we were just like, that's enough, let's just go for it. And then, as Guy was saying, going into these big brands and being like, hey, we need all this money, and they'd be like, what are the chances of you getting waves? And we just lie pretty much, and just,
what are the chances of the sun rising?
Like, of course we're gonna get waves. Of course we're gonna pull it off. And then they all kind of just trusted in us, and a lot of them were at, pretty much all of the brands were at the premieres on the weekend, and they're all just like so pumped on what we've done. Like kind of, they were saying like smashed it out of the park, and anything else you want to do, come approach us, and good feeling.
There's a line, Chris Burkhardt, like you guys know Chris Burkhardt, I assume, like
number one.
Yeah, he's just, I love him so much. Like, I want to meet that man. And there's a line he says, and I feel like you might be on the same kind of path as this, where he says, like, I'm not the most talented photographer or filmmaker, like I'm far from it, but I'm crazy enough to go to the place to get the shot. I'm crazy enough to go on that adventure and take that risk. And you guys seem to be on that, where you don't necessarily think too much of yourselves. Obviously, you're confident in yourselves, but like you're not giving yourself the credit you deserve, but you are willing to go to wherever it is and do whatever it takes to get the shot.
I love that quote, and I've listened to pretty much every podcast he's done, and that is a line that I remember, because it's like I have so much self-doubt, for sure. Like that's my biggest like insecurity. So I think hearing like one of your idols say that, when they just like acknowledge, hey, I'm not the best, like I don't know much about like camera settings or like that side of it all, or the rules of photography. I'll go to the end of the earth and take a photo. And I think like his big thing is storytelling too. So it's like, and I think for both of us, it's so much more than just like a clip or a photo. It's like, what did you do behind the scenes to like capture that image? And I think that's what more and more people are starting to connect with these days. Like we touched on before, it's like everyone's seeing like the craziest shot now, or like, I don't know, it's like seeing a cool Google image. Like we're all just numb to it. Or seeing like someone get like, like a 12-foot stand-up shoot at Chopu. Like you've seen it over and over and over again. Like, and unless you know like the backstory or the story of that person that caught the wave, you don't really connect with it anymore. But I think like, kind of back to your question, it's like, for sure, I think we just kind of, it's not like an arrogant self-belief, but it's like, we know how to get it done now. Not necessarily get the best photo or the clip, but we know how to like get to these places and experience it, and then like share the story behind it.
It's beautiful to see like you're able to market the individual again. Like I feel like for so long, it's always about the perfect shot. And it was just such a, like in terms of the last 10 years at least, like us growing up in that, and you guys too, just like seeing it always just been looking for perfection. But now we're moving back to like the individual stories, like how we're talking about Letty and like Anton, like all those things actually matter again. And there's endless amounts of storytelling in terms of that, because there's whatever billion individuals on the planet. And for us to now be able to use these forms of media, so like video, audio, like to actually tell these stories, it's like, it's almost endless. And I always think about it as like, we're obviously doing a podcast. So you think like, oh, there's too many podcasts, there's too many this, but it's like, there's not. Like, because it's never going to be retold.
Yeah.
Like there's never the same thing. It's always individualistic. And coming to that, do you guys think you do work with the same two boys you did then, or would you want to do with other people as well, or what does that look like for you guys? Like, is there any people you want to work with in particular?
They're getting cut for the next one, hey?
Yeah. I didn't really perform on the last one.
Way too many wipeouts.
I think we'll probably do it with the same crew. I would be pretty keen to chuck another surfer in the mix potentially. Yeah. I definitely wouldn't be opposed to bringing more people to help film it and create it. I'd like to try and keep as much kind of ownership, kind of like we'd still want to be the directors, but like I'd be so happy to like, kind of what we did on the Russia trip. Like we had Misha over there, the local guy, and he just like helped film so much. And like without him, it wouldn't have been the same project. And like, just finding people that are keen and willing and just pumped to go on the adventure.
That's kind of a new art in itself, because if you're not bringing people over from here, it's like you're contacting people externally. Say you're going to a certain region, it's like picking them up from there, and they may have a different style. It's almost like that's a new thing for you guys to embark on as well. Yeah, it's just like developing those skills too. Yeah.
Like Misha was amazing. Like his English was like okay, but his knowledge in my world was like amazing. Like I could hand him a drone or like a red camera or something. He would just be on. He knew all about it, knew everything. Like really good filmer, could do whatever kind of I needed him to do, and like pretty much like didn't fuck up anything. Like every session he would nail.
Did you have him lined up before?
I spoke with Max and just said, do you know anyone that would want to come on and film? Like it was obviously a paid role, and he's like, hey, we've got one like really good guy, but he's usually on the heliboarding trips, like filming tourists that go heliboarding. So whenever he was like not working with them, he'd be coming with us. Yeah.
And he was so epic. Like I think I don't know about you, but I had kind of low expectations of like the quality of their stuff. And then like you'd get back to the house and Spenny'd be going through the footage, and then we'd go through Mish's stuff, and it's like, holy shit, like he's fucking really good.
Yeah.
Like, and it's sick knowing that like Spenny just give him his camera, like give him a red, and you'd be like, okay, he's gonna get some sick stuff.
Yeah, and he'd like hike a mountain and like just like go out in the middle of the night to get time lapses, and like there would be so much stuff that he would do.
We mentioned that. We were just like, because
There was a shot where it's like the chaos, and then it's you guys in the cabin, and then the lights turn on, and it's shot from outside, and like you're in the cabin. Like, dude, what poor bloke? Like everyone's just nice and warm. Who has to go outside and get the shot?
they've just been analytical of like just the gear and the logistics.
Is out there.
Yeah, like the logistics behind, like there was the time lapse. I'm like, how the fuck did that camera not freeze or something? Like, how does that not like?
We tried that so many times. Like that was like a time lapse we did on like the last night, because it's like the lens would freeze in the night. You'd get like 15 photos, and then you'd go going through and you're like, this looks sick, and then it just like the lens would freeze. You'd be like, oh fuck. And there wasn't many clear nights. Like a lot of the time there's always like a storm coming in or something. So it was like,
No doubt.
yeah, it was just logistical chaos a lot of the time.
And I think it was just like me and Guy always had in our mind like coverage. Like we need a drone shot of every location to like establish the intro to the scene, or like we need like if we're in a cabin, get a shot outside the cabin, because it's like usually you go show the cabin, then you're inside the cabin. Drone shot of the beach, then we're surfing the beach, kind of thing. Like we just always had it in our mind, like you have to get all that for context and just to establish where we are, what we're doing. It was always on our mind. Make sure you get that, because if you're just surfing, you're like, how did you get there? What happened? What did you do? Like everyone wants to know the story of like.
I can imagine there would be like such a lack of routine in those 6 weeks. Just no routine in terms of like something comes up or you have to move on to next. Was there any element of routine that you guys can speak on?
It was just all based on swell forecast pretty much. Like, but even so, you'd see a good swell, and then you'd ring up, like Max would talk to the heli pilots, and they'd be like, we can't fly because of the weather. So you're like, okay, what's next? And that was when you saw we like during that massive dump, and then we got in the full drive and tried to drive to the beach, and then there was like 1.5 meters of snow, so the roads were closed. So then Anton called up his mates, and we got snowmobiles to pick us up, and we didn't get there till freaking like midnight that day.
And in that as well, like there was, I think it might have been you that said like, what's going on? Like, when are you coming back? Like, what's the go? Like, were there many moments where you just had no idea what was happening?
Yes. You remember the first heli trip? We told them to drop us at this bay.
Yeah, and they dropped us to like a totally different way, where we like got left on this beach where like there was no waves that we could surf, and like we just spent whatever, $5,000 getting there, and we got dropped on this beach, and it was like, where can we surf? And they're like, oh no, like you got to surf like this other bay. And I was like, oh, we'll get the snowmobile there, because we put a snowmobile in a helicopter. And then they pulled it out of the helicopter, and then he's like, oh, no, we can't drive the snowmobile to the wave. And I was like, dude, what are we doing on this beach?
Yeah, like, actually, like, that was our first heli trip, and we were just like, me and Spenny was like, this is just utter chaos. Like, we're spending so much money.
And they don't even know where we're meant to be going, because, it was really hard with the language barrier, and, like, I think, like, Max had his kind of ways of doing things, and, like, sometimes it might not have been the way that we wanted to do it, and like he was so helpful, but he was kind of the boss. Like,
and I think too, we learned it's like a lot of the time it's like, how can the heli fly through the mountain? It's like if there's a gap in the clouds here, they're going to take it, and it's like this is the only bay we can drop you at. So it's like our plans just go out the window sometimes.
And then there's probably like the route. You're like, off the helicopter could just go left of this one and dip through here. That'd be awesome. Yeah. But I don't speak Russian.
I had one day with the boy, like we actually got to go heliboarding one day. Like the first day we got dropped into the mountains when we did that recce, go up in the helicopter, get dropped on a mountain, you go snowboarding down.
Snowboard back to the helicopter when they pick you up. And
so that first day we didn't put in the film because it kind of dragged on a bit. But yeah, we got to go snowboarding. But there was one day where they were like, okay, these boys all had their snowboards, and they were like, we're going to drop them at the top of this volcano, and then I got told that the helicopter was going to circle the volcano and you can shoot all the boys riding down. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be like the craziest photos of my life. And they all jumped out, and then the heli just like pinned it the opposite way and just went and landed at the bottom of the valley. And I didn't get to shoot, and I was just like, oh my God, the boys are snowboarding down a volcano. I'm just like, got taken at the bottom of it for like an hour and a half, and I was just like, what have I done? But it was just like communication.
And also like they were all world-class snowboarders, but they'd never surfed in their life. Like they don't even know the ocean or anything. So it's kind of like, yeah, they would like to kind of explain like, oh, let's go to this like left slab barrel. They'd just be like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, I don't even know like what. Yeah. So like there was a lot of times where we'd like be explaining to stuff, and like like Fraser like one time had to like get out of the helicopter and like draw in the snow like where he saw a wave, like, and the pilots are all looking at like this drawing he made with his finger in the snow because we're trying to get back to this like bay. Like it was just like it was chaos. Like
So it's almost like snow culture, surf culture,
yeah.
like just trying to
Combined.
blend.
yeah,
And you guys, it's no doubt you're just going to continue to encounter these issues if you keep going to these Arctic places.
yeah. It's just a logistical nightmare.
You're like, how are you ever going to solve that? Like, there's no like, oh, we do this better.
I think you learn to embrace in a way like that you don't have a lot of control, and that's why you've kind of got to have this like broad idea of what you're trying to capture.
Embrace the uncertainty, film everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people love just mishaps and uncertainty and misfortune. So film all of that because that's what people just seem to love, sitting in a cinema just laughing at
Even
us.
in one of the opening scenes is you calling like the Russian embassy in Australia.
Yeah.
Just like that like 20-second conversation, that clip of you just saying like, hey, I'm Spencer Frost, filmmaker in Australia. I want to make a film. Like,
Yeah.
what are the chances of us getting a visa? It's like, nope. And you're just like,
shut us
cool.
down straight off the bat. He pretty much
like
was just
people love that.
Yeah.
Oh, he said, but it wasn't the no. It was like the oh, of course not. Like it's in like, oh, you're an idiot. like
And
it's-
that's how like simply we started this project. It's like, do you reckon we can go to Russia? So he's like, I'll just call up the embassy and see. Like, and it was like that was like the first step. It's like, hey dude, they said no. It's like we can't get a tourist visa. We're gonna have to get a business visa. So it was like every day was just ticking off these little boxes for like 8 months, and eventually we kind of yeah.
Do you guys ever fear continuing doing these trips like time and time again that it'll ever lose the magic?
I think we just will try and always do something pretty different. Like it might have the same trend of like wild place, cold water, surfing, but I think whatever we do is going to be so different to like going to Russia when all that was happening or something else. So yeah, I don't think so. Definitely like we like to ride the wave of like this project. Like we won't just jump into another one. Like we'll start the conversations going and everything else, but yeah, we want to like share this with the world. Like we're starting with Australia and then we're going to branch out and yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think we'll always do something new and cool, and people just like, I think people just love adventures and people getting out of their comfort zones and telling stories and.
Because there's a level of people love to watch other people do it, but not do it themselves. It gets so comfortable to sit in the cinema, eat your popcorn, nice comfy chair, and watch this incredible film. But to live it is completely different, and so many people don't want to live it. And I think, like, for me, the best thing I can do when I go out on my adventures, like what I love to do is just take photos and write about it. And like that way, because I know it's not for everyone, like not everyone wants to go to Russia and surf these crazy waves, but like they would love to hear about it and love to see it. So if I can like take a photo and tell a little story about it, I think that's almost like, I don't put it on myself as that's my obligation or my duty, but I almost do in a way.
And even if people don't want to go and do these things, I think they take the level of risk you guys take and the level of, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, the level of fuck it that you have. Like that's, I think everyone can relate to that in some realm, regardless of what they do or what they desire to do. I think it's just the fact that you guys were like you speak to it, you just went, wait, I wonder if we can go over to Russia and surf and just like figure it out. Like there's something to that.
If we can, like, I guess like Spenny touched on before, like if we can inspire people to chase your dreams or put, 100% into whatever you want to do, I think that's like kind of the end goal or like part of the end goal for us, because that's why we've been inspired. Like you've touched on Chris Burkhardt and we're talking about Jimmy Chin and like Ben Weiland, like these are all guys, and like Travis Rice, like all their projects that they've done have inspired us to be like, fuck it, let's do it. Like that's what like fuels our fire in a way, So it's like seeing the guys that have come before us, like that's the most inspiring thing for us, and we're just like, let's just see what we can make.
That's cool, and it's cool to think in X amount of years, guys will be saying that about you. Like seeing these boys do that, like that made us want to go and do this thing. That's a crazy thought.
Yeah, that'd be.
That still trips me out.
And like I guess in that pursuit of greatness and in the pursuit of doing these crazy things, like a lot has to be sacrificed, and like you said, like giving 100% to what you want to do, like that means X amount of percent is taken away from other realms of your life. Where have you guys sort of sacrificed, and where do you feel like you're kind of not lacking, but you
want me to cry?
Just obviously I'll just start it off, but relationships obviously are going to get flogged and pushed to the side because we're both pretty busy with freelance work this whole year, and then add making a film and a book. It's like it's a full-time job plus a full-time job, and you just like making it work. If you're working on your own stuff in the morning, you're working on the film at night. If you got a day off, you're working on the film. If you got a day at work, like, it's just like, it was such a big year for both of us. Like, friendships, relationships definitely took a hit. Like, health, we surf a lot, but like definitely got thrown out the window as much as we wanted to be training and doing a bunch of stuff. And yeah, definitely even work got like kind of pushed aside. Like, I turned down some jobs because I just had to finish the project and had to give it everything. And yeah, it was a hard year. Yeah.
What about for you, Guy?
Yeah, it's been that's why Spenny can't get me a tablet. Yeah, this has been the hardest year. Last year was the hardest year of my life for sure.
Wow.
Me and my partner of 6 years broke up kind of with the project being a huge catalyst for that. Like Spenny touched on, I found it really hard to balance, like, relationship, this project, commercial work, and then also just looking after myself in the process. Like, so yeah, that's kind of just happened recently. So it's been really tough. Like, even on the weekend, her not coming to the films, and she's kind of been part of this. Like, when we first met, I didn't take photos, so it was like she's been there from the start. So it's been like, yeah, it's been really tough for me personally. And I think, like, we even got asked the other day, like, is it worth it? And I kind of said, like, yeah, it's worth it. But I think as a whole, next time we do this, I really want to, look at my life and be like, why are you doing this? Like, what's your end goal? Because I think for me, like, I looked at people like Jimmy and Chris, and I thought, like, if I'm one of the best adventure photographers in the world, like, then I'll be happy. And I think, like, if anything in my life wasn't related to like photography or storytelling or these projects, it was like kind of, it fell to the side. And I think I'm starting to realize now that, like, you can be happy in other aspects of your life. And I think for me, like, I've been so set on this one goal, and now I've reached it, and like part of me does feel a bit empty. And I've heard like Burkhard say it before when he talks about his like pillars, and you've got your friendship, your career, your health, your gas burners. And I think I understand it now. I understand that if you're going to put 100% into something, like, other things are going to take a hit. And I think, like, this is where my passion is at, for sure, like doing these trips and storytelling. But it's also like, next time we do this, I do want to find a better balance. And I think Spenny's like, at the moment, he's trying to find that balance too with his partner. It's like, you really have to be present and make time for it when you're not on the project. Because I think my thing was like, we were both stressed so much. And like you touched on before, it's like, if you were at a job in the day, we were having meetings in the night. So it's like, you'd get home from a job and you're cooked, and then Spenny and Luke, our producer, would be on a meeting for an hour talking about what do we got to do tomorrow. So I think, like, next time I kind of want to set myself a bit more boundaries for, like, relationship, like, how do I survive this and like be happy at the end of it? Because I think it's really fucking hard. Yeah,
like, it's so hard. I think we did like pretty good, like in the big scheme of things, but like, yeah, it was a crazy year for all of us. Like, yeah, everyone definitely like gave it probably a little bit too much, but that's kind of what I think what you have to do to pull off a project like this. You like really have to just give it everything, and then on the flip side of that, definitely took massive hits on other aspects of our life.
It's great to hear you guys talk about it, because it's the hidden side behind all the glamour. Like, if someone just went to your premiere, they would have only seen you guys walk out like at the start, at the end, laughing, having a great time, go away, and it's the element of like, oh, I want to be those guys. Like, I wish I was one of those guys, like doing what they want, and they're so confident, they're so this. But it's like, if you want to chase your dreams, there's a real reality behind it. There is a real harsh reality. And it's when you go home from those premieres, and like you were saying, Guy, it's like you literally leave and go to the next thing, and then you're already thinking about that.
Well, even on Friday night, I left at 11 because I was like sad. Like, I like had a heaviness in my heart. And that was one of like the most amazing nights of our career life, for sure. And like, a part of me still felt...
Your personal life was one of the saddest.
It's been... I've learned a lot, and I think like we all have, like, for sure. But it's like, it's interesting to see like, where is your happiness coming from, or what's the end goal of this project? And I think it's been a big reality for all of us on this project, for sure.
Yeah, and Burkhard always says like, happiness occurs before you leave your front door. And I think so many people, as you said, like, seek happiness externally and seek fulfillment externally, like through whatever it is they're doing in their life, their relationship, their job, like their car, whatever it is. But like, none of that stuff will bring you to, and you really need to establish a solid base and foundation. And I think that is what separates kind of like the average Joes from the greats, like the Burkhards, the Jimmy Chins. Like, in order to do what they do and do it for so long, you have to have it figured out. Like, Jimmy Chin isn't chasing happiness on those rock walls. He's just not, and he knows that, and he's got it sorted out. It's in his home life, it's in his routine with his wife, whatever it is. And yeah, I think it's cool that you guys are just on this journey and you're willing to learn. Like, when things got tough, you weren't like, no, I can't do this, I'm out. You're like, all right, this shit's tough, I'm gonna figure it out, I'll keep going.
Yeah. How was the support network throughout the 2 years for you guys, I guess, individually and together?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, definitely, like, between me, Guy, and Luke, who was the producer, like, we'd always be checking in and always be talking. If we were just fucked, we'd just tell each other and just be like, I need like a day or two just to like not talk or but yeah, we were all pretty good. Like, Luke as well had some pretty like heavy times going through, and yeah, everyone just kind of was the shoulder to cry on if we needed. And yeah, it was pretty we've got a pretty good support network of friends. Like, all our friends, we're all super close, and we're all super vulnerable and honest, and talk about feelings and cry if we need to. And yeah, it's good. It's very, very supportive crew of friends. There's not really egos at all, and yeah, everyone's happy.
Because they're the make or breaks. Like, at those points where you're at a low and someone can just rip you up by your t-shirt and pull you up.
Yeah, for sure.
And you doing it to them when they need it too.
Yeah, we're so lucky. We've got like such an incredible group of friends. Like, even I just had to go away to Bali for 2 weeks just for like a mental reset. And I spoke to Spenny and Luke, because I was like, kind of felt a bit guilty about taking time off before the tour because there's so much to do. And like, Spenny the last month has just carried this. Like, and Luke too, I kind of jumped ship because I was like, you know, mentally not available. And they were like, go and take time. Like, go and look after yourself, because that's the main priority. And for me, hearing that, like hearing him and Luke say that, it was like, oh, okay. Thank you for
that's a backpack.
And the love there, like, just knowing you have that love and foundation in your boys, like, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I think like I touched on just then, it's like a guilt when you're like, feel like you're not doing enough. And then to hear like Spenny, like, go and look after yourself. It's like, to have that, it's really special.
It's actually priceless. Like, I can't imagine doing that, like what you guys are doing solo. Like, that would be fuckery.
Wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. And shout out to Luke, our producer. Like we were touching on before, when we go into these meetings, he's like such a good talker and presenter. Like, like, we lent on him a lot during that process because he's a professional. Like, that's what he does. We're still we're still kind of learning that world. And to have, like, he reached out to Spenny after the last project and was like, hey, I would love to be part of the next one. And then Spenny got him on board this, like, because it wouldn't have happened without him. Like, it genuinely wouldn't have. Like, we would have.
We just went and had a coffee one day after the Iceland trip, because I think he watched it, and he was like, hey, if you need like a producer, he's like, I'm on. And I was like, fuck. We're kind of thinking of going to Russia. And he's like, all right. And then literally from that meeting, like, I think that was kind of in COVID and we couldn't really travel. And then like, as soon as there was whispers of like borders opening and you could travel, it was just like, we're on, dude. And then he was all in. Like, every day for like 6 months, like, not even exaggerating, me, Guy, and Luke had like a meeting with a sponsor, like a Zoom call with like a fixer, a guide or so. Like, every single day we'd have something to do, and just like as a team we'd just be like on and helping each other out, and just made it happen together.
That's awesome. And to the relationship thing, like, how do you guys cultivate that, like, between you boys and just the vulnerability and the openness? Because I think it's so important, and so many people, especially guys, are so shit at being open, being vulnerable and honest. And you'll see it like with suicide rates and how high they are. And, you know, it might be a guy and like he's been best mates with this group of guys for 30 years, and then all of a sudden he takes his own life, and those guys had no idea, but they're all best mates. And it's like, clearly not. Like, clearly there was a barrier and there wasn't an openness there, otherwise you would have known. And so I think it's awesome that you guys have that, for starters. But what would you say is kind of the keys to having that within your friendship?
We've been unfortunate enough to have mates that have taken their own lives, during high school and the few years after high school, which is like a big reality check. It's a huge wake-up call. And there was a group called 180 that started in Avalon, who was kind of focused around mental health. And that was they'd have like, meetings and group get-togethers, and people would start sharing how they were feeling. And I think that was like, for all of us, that was like, okay, this is like real. Like, and we have mates that are like taking their own lives because we're scared of the stigma of saying, hey, I'm not doing well. and that's like really fucked up. Like to be scared to tell your mates that you're not doing well, and it like I feel like we're both so open, and even me telling you guys the other day was so hard, like so hard. So there's still like levels to it, but I think it's just it only takes one person to be vulnerable to get someone else to.
Yeah, vulnerability incites vulnerability.
Yeah, it's incredible the power one person opening up can have, and like we've got other shit going on in our lives. Like I've got some family stuff, and Spenny always checks on me like, you know, how's that side of your life going? And it's like some days if I'm up for chatting, I'll be like, dude, it's not good, and then we'll have a chat. And I think just like it takes a weight off your shoulder, like it really does. When you've got this stuff going on inside you, and then you can share it with a mate, it's like, yeah, it feels like there's a weight that gets taken off you, and I think that's when you're able to grow. Or like even if you've got, you know, insecurities or something and you tell someone about it, it's like no one really cares. It's like they just want to help you and see you get through it. So I think that was a huge thing for me, like learning to be vulnerable, and people actually like connect with it a lot. Like I did a post on my Instagram story the other day, actually, just why I went to Bali. First time in my life I'd actually taken a trip for my mental health, and I just said to my social media world, like I haven't been doing that good. Thanks for all the love for everyone. And I got over 200 message replies, like the most I've ever got. Like, you know, we go to do these trips to Russia, and I take like the best photo I've ever taken and get shared around cool, but I've never ever had that many responses to a story ever, like by triple that. So it was like, that was a big learning lesson for me. Like we feel it in our group. I usually keep my social media to business, photos, adventure, story. That was the first time ever, and to like feel that support from the community was like incredible. So I think just the power of vulnerability.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's so sick that you guys have that, and like for you guys to find the balance between like the professional and the business relationship that you guys have. Like I know for us, when we come together, it's just so easy to talk about the pod and what we want to do and all these things, but be like, no, like first of all, before like business partner, he's my best friend, and like that's what matters more to me. He's my brother. Like, dude, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? And I definitely find that like it's a challenge to because we're so early on in this, like we're just so keen and so hyped, but it's like, dude, like put that aside for a second and talk about like what's going on in your life. It's so cool that you guys have cultivated that.
Yeah, and the link between the two, the business and personal, it's like it's hard to see the line. And to your point, Guy, it's like it was even now hard for you to mention that. Like it's like, yeah, you have this set up and you're confident in your vulnerability and your mates and how they'll take it, but it was still hard. And that's just the reality. It's like it's always going to be hard to speak about it, but it's just like knowing that you can, I feel like it's like the biggest, like it's just so important.
Yeah. What do you guys want to talk about?
Oh, do you want to bring it back after the? I don't know. What do you got for us?
What about your favorite moment of the trip?
Yeah. That's a tough question.
We got asked that the other day with the dude. He was like, "What was the? Have you seen The Secret Life of Walter?"
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No,
Dude, you guys have to watch it.
I love it. But anyway, at the end of it, for context, at the end of the film, there's this like crazy Nat Geo professional photographer, and he's chasing this snow leopard, and he's like, and he comes and he's got his camera, and he's been chasing this shot of a snow leopard for like his whole life, and he picks up his camera and he looks at it, and then the guy next to him is just like, "You gonna take the photo?" And he's just like, "No, I just like to take in the moment." And it was like really special. But I didn't have a moment like that. but the question was, we had another interview and they said, were there any moments that for context, but that you just like didn't shoot and you didn't have a camera and just took it all in? And that was for me that first day heliboarding. I just like I shot some mountain porn and some shots of the mountains, and then I put down my camera and Max was like, "Do you want to snowboard?" And I've done like enough snowboarding to we were getting dropped on like, it's like a 3,000 meter volcano. It was like pretty gnarly snowboarding. In a helicopter, you jump out, you got an avalanche backpack, like beacons, all this shit. It's pretty like radical snowboarding. And it was like, I was like sick, like got my board, jumped out of a heli and just like strapped in, and it was like, took like an hour and a half to get to the bottom. It's such a big mountain. You just like, just carving knee deep powder. Like that was like the moment where I was like, we're all on this trip, we're making this project, we're just like, just tunnel vision, like getting waves, surfing, like sponsors, money. And that day was just like, just enjoy being on this trip and enjoy this crazy experience, because it's so expensive. We got to do it for free. Like it was the craziest opportunity, and we just like all went snowboarding all day when we probably should have been surfing and doing the project, but we just had the sickest day ever.
And then guys just in the helicopter like,
Yeah, that was the day.
Yeah. You did snowboard.
I did snowboard a few times that day, which was like incredible. Yeah, we were speaking about like whether shooting ever takes you out of like the experience of being there, and we were kind of saying on that trip you really kind of, because it was like a lot of the time we weren't getting shots we wanted, so when we were, it was like, all right, it's all systems go. And then it was like also taking the time to kind of step back and take it all in, because it was just a sensory overload. Like you saw the landscape there, it was
like
so
even watching
absurd.
it through a screen,
It's hard to process.
I'm just in awe. Like imagine, I think I said to you, like imagine standing there, looking up at those mountains, like surfboard in hand, snow around, like just imagine that.
I think watching it on Friday and Saturday, it's like you'd have moments where you'd be like, fuck, we actually experienced like
in the helicopter, like loud, windy, just feeling the cold, like seeing those colors is insane.
Yeah, and I think the amount of effort we like put in to actually even get to that spot made it like so much more special, because like you heard like when we got off the plane in Moscow, like we nearly got deported. And that was like a whole adventure in itself. But I remember being in the room with Spenny and Fraz, and there was like our passport and the deportation forms, and we look at each other and we're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, are we about to get put on the plane home?
It was like literally like all this dreaming, all this planning, all this funding, and it was like that moment was just like, holy shit, like we're going home. Like it's all done. It was crazy, Never will experience anything like that again in our life, or hopefully not. The next trip.
Pressure you guys would have had when you something I wanted to ask you was about like all the footage, because you guys would have obviously had all the footage like on hard drives and stuff like that, and then the nervousness of like, fuck, are we gonna be able to go home with like all this footage? Like, what was that like? I can imagine you sitting there with all of it. Like, is it just packed in your luggage, or like?
Yeah, like we were there at a time when like they did not want any international people there documenting anything. Even though we were doing something totally different to what they were like, no international film crews or journalists or anything allowed in here, and people getting detained. Unfortunately, it was happening. Like it was pretty gnarly time, and we had 2 months being there, just like building up this story in our head, just being like, fuck, what's going to happen when we need to get out? Like, how are we going to do this? Like straight face, straight story. And like, we had there 16 hard drives, like 80 terabytes of footage, like craziest amount of footage. And like, I think we took four each, and just kind of like a couple different bags, like strap them to us. No, just like, different bags, bit in hand luggage. Like I left one copy of the whole project in Russia, still there, just left it there. Just like worst case, our people there have a copy, and we'll get it somehow. So yeah, we just we got to immigration that day. We got to the customs desk and handed over the passport, and the lady just like looked at me, stamped it, have a good day, sent us through.
Yeah, we were so nervous that day.
And we got to the other side and like sat down in this like once you're through, and we just like all got a beer. It was like in the morning, wasn't it? Like 9 in the morning. And we just like had a schooner, and we're just like, I remember that plane taking off from Moscow. That feeling was just like, I just like sank into my chair. I was like, oh my God. I was like, fuck, we've done it. Like that was probably one of the feelings of the trip, just being like, wow, like we fucking did it. Yeah.
We've joked about it before. It's like, because not many people knew we did the trip, because we didn't post anything on social media. Yeah, no one. We didn't get our visas till like 5 days before we left, so we never wanted to be like, hey, we're going on this trip. And then when we were over there, obviously the situation happened. We didn't want to post online. We're in Russia having time of our lives in this surf trip, and then obviously social media got taken down anyway, so it kind of took it away from us anyway. But coming home, like it was only our close family and friends that knew we were gone, so we're joking like it's like we were like the hobbits returning back to the Shire after like going to Mordor, because we'd get back to Av and people would be like, have you guys